Good evening and welcome to the council meeting of February. Make a very good sound, is it? Testing, right? So great.
good? All right. We'll try this again. Good evening and welcome to the council meeting of February 23rd, 2026. This meeting is being live streamed on the town's YouTube channel and also held live in chambers. I acknowledge that we are on Mi'kma'ki, ancestral land of the Mi'kmaq people, and honor all who care for it, including African Nova Scotian communities. On behalf of the town of Kentville and council, I want to extend our deepest condolences to the passing of the mother of Deputy Mayor Kroll, who passed away on the weekend at 97. She had a very long and great life, and our thoughts are with you and your family at this time. I call this meeting to order at, 5:11 p.m. I note that we do have quorum. We have regrets from Councillor Baker this evening. Begin by asking if there are any conflict of interest issues we should be made aware of before we begin. There being none, we'll move on to approval of the agenda. We have one deletion. The skateboard Kentville presentation will be removed, and we will add item H under new business to taxation of the business park properties. If someone could move that. Councillor Andrew, and a seconder, Deputy Mayor Kroll. All those in favor? Those opposed? Motion is carried. We have two sets of minutes in our package. The first set is from the January 27th council meeting. Are there any changes to this set of minutes? If there are none, we will file those as presented. And we also have a set from the January 12th special council meeting. Are there any changes to that set of minutes? Okay, we will also file those as prepared. We'll move on now to our presentation from the downtown business community. I'll welcome up Julie Ogilvie and Gary Morse.
Good evening, Mayor, Council, and staff. In January, Mayor Zabian provided us with a letter stating that our funding formula was being changed for the next year. It laid out two options: an area rate of 11.5 cents, same as last year, on downtown commercial assessments, which would generate $46,044 for KDCL, versus $680,000 paid to KDCL last year. Or the downtown rate could be more than tripled to 35 cents to generate last year's funding level. You asked us to consider this impact along with KDCL future plans and to make a presentation to you. We have done that. In front of you represents many hours of work from staff and board members in the report that you were given. And tonight we would like to summarize our report and focus on the proposed reduction in our funding from $141,758 to $46,044. This isn't a small trim. It's a nearly 68% cut. Council's alternative to more than triple the levy on downtown businesses is simply not acceptable and doesn't actually address the root issue. Because this is more than dollars and cents. It's also a fundamental shift in how economic development in this downtown core is accomplished and supported. So tonight we want to examine what this shift actually means for downtown and for Kentville as a whole.
Julie, can I just pause you for 1 second? Our screen's not on here.
Oh,
do you have
course.
Slides up or not?
I do, and I can see them.
Let's wait until we get those up and then you can.
Let's do that.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. We're not having a good tech night here.
We did. These things happen. Thanks for catching me.
No worries. Okay. You're good. Do you want to start where, I don't know, is this your first slide here? Can you see?
What I can see is the letter.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
That was the first slide.
Okay.
Tonight we're going to summarize our report.
Okay.
Maybe I'll just start there.
You
again.
start there.
Okay. Thank you. Tonight we're going to summarize our report and focus on the proposed reduction in our funding from $141,758 to $46,044. This isn't a small trim. It's nearly a 68% cut. And Council's alternative to more than triple the levy on downtown businesses is simply not acceptable and doesn't actually address the root issue. Because this is more than just dollars and cents, it's also about a fundamental shift in how economic development in the downtown core is accomplished and supported. So tonight we want to examine what the shift actually means for downtown and for Kentville as a whole. First, let's talk about what this funding represents. Historically, funding by the KDCL operated as a shared investment model. Residential, commercial, and industrial taxpayers all contributed under the Economic Development Tax Levy. For the average household, that amounted to less than $8 in 2024-25, a small contribution that supported a coordinated downtown strategy for the benefit of the entire town. Council's letter states that in previous years, all properties in Kentville were paying the Business Improvement District tax, but it also states that it was not permitted by legislation. We don't feel that this is accurate. According to records from 2013, the tax was collected as an economic tax levy, not an area rate, and it was paid out to KDCL as a grant. Sections 56 and 75 of the Municipal Government Act provide council with numerous ways to raise the KDCL funding. We believe that we have been legally funded, and based on the Act, you certainly have an authority to continue funding KDCL, whether it be by an area rate or out of general tax revenues or a combination of the two. On June 30th, 2025, Council voted to levy an area rate on all taxable commercial property for the purposes of KDCL and remove the residential and industrial tax levy. Obviously, this year, the balance of the KDCL funding came out of the general tax revenues of the town. At first glance, this may sound like a tax reduction, but assessments increased. So although households no longer see that tax levy line on their bill, their total tax bill increased. Total tax revenue increased this year as well by 7.8% due to assessment increases, representing $1,039,000 in additional revenue, and it will likely increase again next year for the same reason. But our funding is being reduced by 68%. How does reducing our funding benefit Kentville? This is not a hypothetical question, it's a practical one. The town's proposed 2025-26 total revenue budget is $18,475,100. Our current funding, just shy of $142,000, represents less than 1% of that total budget. Right now, what's being proposed is not a restructuring. It's a significant reduction in our capacity to operate. Capacity is what allows us to coordinate events, respond to businesses, secure grants, manage volunteers, market the downtown, and advocate. When capacity shrinks, those things don't disappear overnight, but they slow down, scale back, and eventually stop. So the question is, why reduce it? If this decision is connected to budget pressure, reducing our funding does not ultimately lower tax bills. It simply changes where that money goes. We believe the responsibility to support and coordinate downtown activity remains. And economic development does not deliver itself. It requires coordination, it requires leadership, and it requires people. Right now, that work is carried out by KDCL with support from the town. KDCL has one full-time executive director, one part-time support staff, 15 hours a week, a volunteer board of 9 business owners with over 53 years of combined business experience, and 43 years of board experience on this board, plus 5 subcommittees with 4 additional volunteers. These are people who bring real-world experience to every decision. And if if this work moves in-house, that direct business owner leadership disappears. And if additional town staff must be hired to replace that capacity, then staffing costs are not reduced either. They simply shift. So again, we return to the practical question, what improves? So let's answer the question directly. What happens at $46,000? At that level of funding, this organization becomes unsustainable. Without funding for staff, our structure does not function. Volunteers are essential, but they cannot replicate daily year-round oversight. At $46,000, we would be closing our doors. And unfortunately, this town has experienced that before. In 1999, the KDCL was defunded. Over the following years, vacancy increased. Many of you remember the papered-up windows in the early 2010s. In 2013, this organization was reinvigorated because town leadership recognized the need for a business development group. It has taken 13 years of consistent coordination, partnership, and shared investment to reach where we are today. Are we willing to reset that progress and risk repeating a cycle that took more than a decade to repair? Another concern that we've heard is that we only serve downtown businesses, not all businesses in Kentville. That is true, and that is by design. From the beginning, Council established that our area of focus was the downtown core, specifically the C1 zone. But that focus has never been about exclusion. It has always been about strategy. Downtown vitality contributes to the town's overall prosperity. In fact, when a downtown is strong, property values rise, foot traffic increases, amenities and services attract residents, events attract visitors, new businesses open. Plus, downtown business improvement groups are often eligible for funding streams tied specifically to downtown revitalization. Over the last 4 years, KDCL has secured over $160,000 in external funding the town would not have qualified for without this structure. All of this momentum extends beyond the C1 zone. So if the concern is that we are focused on downtown, that is not a shift in direction. It is the direction that was set out for us. And until council wishes to change that focus, we will continue to carry out the role we were asked to perform. If this decision is about our performance, then let's talk about the results. This year, we intentionally focused on creating and strengthening 4 high-impact major seasonal activations. Chronologically, the first was the Multicultural Festival on August 24th. Originally started by our organization in 2015, it has now grown into its own independent board, which we continue to sit on and provide $6,000 annually in essential funding. That partnership model is success in action. This year, we had over 746 people visit our booth to spin the prize wheel, and we gave out over $4,600 in prizes. Second, Pumpkin People, which ran from October 4th to 31st. Little known fact, this event was actually also started by KDCL in the early to mid-90s. It was taken over by the town in '99 when we were defunded, but we've been a big part of it since our reinvigoration. This year, we introduced 3 new month-long sales activations and distributed our first large-scale paper mailer. The goal was simple: convert traffic into transactions. And by measuring the engagement we got through our socials, our business feedback, and our consistent contest participation, we can see that we achieved that. Third is Holidays, another event that we started through collaboration between the town and KDCL back in 2020. This was a coordinated holiday strategy that ran for 7.5 weeks from November 3rd through December 23rd. Again, we layered activations, promotions, partnerships, and retail incentives to encourage local shopping, business recognition, and participating in partner events, ensuring that sustained engagement was continued throughout the busiest shopping season of the year. Fourth is Winter Warm-Up. This is a new event conceptualized in collaboration with the town's rec department. This is another month-long activation built around community participation and doing business locally during a traditionally slower season. Engagement metrics are showing strong traction, and we're excited to see how many people entered to win the prize pack, now valued at over $2,800, and there is still time to enter. As you can see, this year we have been more active than ever when it comes to promotions. For 4 of the past 5 months, we have had consistent strategic promotional campaigns running. These campaigns represent a change in the way we approached events this year by looking at how we could extend the length of incentives to last for an entire month instead of a single day or weekend. They are designed to increase visitation, spending, and visibility for local businesses. And as you can see, they have delivered very large levels of engagement. And in our year-end survey, 51% of businesses reported an increase in sales over last year. Beyond those 4 campaigns, this year alone, we contributed to or supported 7 other community events, printed and distributed 1,100 downtown maps, coordinated 55 painted storefront windows, supported 74 micro-beautification grants, hired 14 local artists, generated over 1.8 million in content views on social media, and reinvested 5,300 through the Downtown Dollars program, 2,220 of which was donated by KDCL. Another important piece of our work is a facade improvement program. Since 2017, we have distributed just under $265,000 to 70 unique businesses to improve storefronts and building exteriors. But this isn't just cosmetic, it's economic. Each project required owners to invest their own capital alongside the grant, representing shared investment in downtown Kentville and significantly increasing the total investment in town beautification. Plus, well-maintained commercial districts directly impact residential desirability, public confidence, and investor interest across the entire town. This year alone, we distributed $29,055 to 8 businesses. 6 of those 8 qualified under our new business stream, which shows that Kentville is perceived as a desirable place for new businesses. And that's just our public-facing work. Behind the scenes, we field calls and emails from business owners, coordinate during construction impacts, mediate event disruptions, advocate when safety concerns arise, connect businesses with funding, collaborate with 3 event organizing committees, sit on 2 volunteer boards, distribute promotions material on foot, engage with 17 partner organizations, and promote over 140 local businesses. And again, all of that is being delivered at less than 1% of the town's total revenue budget. So if this is about results, we would love to know where we were underperforming. Excuse me. The final area we need to address is advocacy. Part of our defined role is to act as a voice for the business community. It means hearing concerns, identifying patterns, clarifying facts, and bringing those concerns to the appropriate channels. Common things we hear about are construction impacts, event disruptions, center square closures, parking, snow removal, safety and vandalism, and overall customer experience. This year, growing tension around the unhoused population reached a boiling point. Businesses were calling us daily. They were frustrated, some were scared, many felt unheard. The homelessness issue is not different in structure from construction or parking. It impacts the customer experience and business viability, but it is different in scale and emotion and in its consequences. There are human lives involved. There was no established playbook for us to follow, so we treated it like we do every other issue that impacts business operations. We listened, we gathered facts, we spoke with business owners, service providers, police, and partners, and we looked for collaborative pathways. Forging new pathways into unfamiliar territory is slow and difficult, but stepping into difficult conversations is not going rogue. It is fulfilling our mandate. We hope that through collaboration among all parties, we will continue to bring improvements to this issue. And finally, we've referenced the current year's funding level, but we also need to address future needs. You have a copy of our financial statements for the current year and the past 3 years, as well as our proposed budget for next year. The cost of providing the services KDCL delivers exceeds the funding received from town. Fortunately, we have had reserves available and we have used almost $50,000 over the past 3 years to support our work, but those reserves are now nearly depleted. In order to continue providing services at this year's level, we will require $187,000 in funding next year. With assessment increases, that will still make the KDCL contribution less than 1% of the revenue budget. We respectfully ask that you give this serious consideration in light of the benefits KDCL brings to the business community and to Kentville as a whole. So let's wrap this up. We've talked about proportion. Our entire organization occupies less than 1% of the town's revenue budget. We've talked about the need for economic development. Without it, we risk having to paper the windows again. We've talked about the wealth of experience that this organization brings to the table. 16 people with 153 years of experience cannot be replaced by a single in-house hire. And we've talked about performance, the measurable work, the visible events, the behind-the-scenes coordination. We've talked about advocacy, the responsibility to listen, to investigate, and to bring concerns forward, even when it's hard. We are here tonight laying it all on the table because we have nothing to lose. Except we all have everything to lose. We live in a time when it is easier than ever to stay home, to order online, to disconnect. KDCL represents intentional investment in a downtown that is vibrant, in storefronts that are lit, in artists, in events that bring families together, in artists who paint our walls, in children drawing pumpkin people, in small business owners living out their dreams. A small downtown does not happen by accident. It requires coordination, it requires investment, it requires people willing to do the work. Truly, it requires all of us. Let's continue working together to build the Kentville we've been growing toward, the one we can only create together. Thank you.
Thank you, Julie, for your presentation. I'll open the floor now to any questions from members of council. Deputy Mayor Kroll.
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. And thanks, Julie, for your presentation. It was really great. I have a couple of questions of financial nature that relate to your budget. Can I talk about that?
Absolutely. I will also just bring Gary Morse up here because he is our treasurer and is the master of the budget. Come on up, Gary.
So the first question I have basically is looking at your budget for the 25-26 year and compare it to the budget for the 26-27 year. It appears to me that there's nothing in there for office rent. And I also noticed that there's nothing actually projected for office rent. Can you speak to that?
Yeah, absolutely. So a common expense for organizations is office rent. We are very fortunate that our board president, Paul Dixon, has given us space. So originally in our budget for this year, we thought that we might be looking at new space, which is why we budgeted $5,000 in this year's budget. However, Paul Dixon has always been generous in giving us space within one of his buildings, so that is not a line item that we end up having to pay for.
Okay, that's great, thanks. And do you know how much money you have in reserve, or you'll have in reserve at March 31st, 2026?
Yes.
We'll have about $15,000 left if our projections that we have included in the report come true.
You're looking at, according to what you had posted in your report, $36,131 deficit, which I expect are intending to cover from your reserve fund?
That's correct.
Am I correct? I guess my last question, if I can, Your Worship,
Sure.
is that, do you have a financial statement that we can peruse? I'm not sure if I've ever received one,
In the report the written report that was presented to council, the very last page,
Yeah.
No, I mean an audited statement or a statement with an auditor's report.
we can get you one from last year,
Yeah,
yes.
I would appreciate that. Thanks very much. That's my questions.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Hamilton.
Just a couple of questions. Thank you so much for your report. It was really done well, and I enjoyed reading the history and everything. Just wondering, how many businesses are downtown, and how many members do you have? Did I miss that?
So all businesses downtown are automatically members. There's no process of like a membership. If you are within the C1 zone, then you're automatically a member. On our walking map, there's about 140 businesses listed, plus 17 organizations.
Was that in your report?
Yeah.
Okay, I must have missed that then, sorry. And out of those, sorry, just looking at my questions here. How do you ensure that there's a broad representation for that community? Because I'm sure there's differing opinions with everything. And
Is there like a
we've kinda heard that.
specific in mind? Like, how do we ensure?
If you have differing opinions and stuff within that, how do you ensure that you're representing all of your members?
Yeah, well, we do send out surveys and ask for feedback. We also receive a lot of correspondence directly from people from within the community. If people don't tell us how they are feeling through those channels, then we don't know. But from the information that we gather through those surveys and through talking directly to business owners, like physically going and talking to them as well, we feel that then we distill, like, what are the common themes, what are the overarching feelings on things, and we act with the best intention for the masses.
Okay, another question.
Oh, 1 second. And board diversity. Do you want to just say something? Can Paul Dixon also add to that?
Sorry, just wanted to jump in with one thing to that. So we always actively look towards board diversity too, not just in the typical terms of diversity that we talk about, like age, sex, religion, but also diversity in terms of our members. So like we have a hairstylist, we have a lawyer, I'm a property manager, Gary's a builder and a realtor. So
We have
we
retail.
constantly search for people who represent the different industries within the town.
Yeah, and we have a whole connections committee that's dedicated to going out and making contact with everyone on that list on a regular basis. So if people aren't proactively writing us, they should be being contacted by us at least a couple of times a year by that committee, and then it's up to them to tell us how they feel.
Couple more questions, sorry. How do you differentiate between the marketing efforts that you're doing versus what town is doing?
How do we differentiate what we're
Yeah.
doing? I mean,
Like, are you
by-
always
in
doing the same
strategy
things, or are you doing
No, we're
different?
constantly in communication with town around what is happening. So particularly this year, where we mentioned that we took a bit of a more strategic approach to events this year. We have heard historically in the past that businesses are not always profiting from events, right? Like, let's look at Apple Blossom, let's look at the motorcycle rally. A lot of times businesses are closing their doors during major events, even though thousands of people are being brought to town. They're not finding out how to capitalize on those crowds and turn it into sales. So we said, okay, this year we really need to put a focus on creating first trust within the business community, so that hopefully our goal has been next year they might be willing to keep their doors open and try something new, but to really show them that we are focusing in on how are all of these activities that are being planned. Typically now the event side of things is a bit more town heavy. How are we strategically tipping that so that it's become a strategically viable thing for the business community? Are they seeing actual dollars rolling into their business, more customers coming through the door because of our initiatives? So it's the marriage of what is happening between town and what is happening between us that makes it so perfect, because we can't lose the event side, but we also can't lose the strategy side. Otherwise, it's not a full success.
Okay, and one last question. How do we ensure that there is alignment, so that we're working together and collaborating together? How do you plan on doing that?
Yeah, we would love to make sure that there's alignment. We have constantly tried to keep an open channel of dialogue. First of all, Lindsay Young, who is our representative from town staff, has been with the KDCL since it was reinvigorated. She's sort of the mother of the KDCL. And honestly, if it weren't for the work that Lindsay puts into this and the coordination and that tie to town through Lindsay, we wouldn't exist. So we do send a major shout out to Lindsay. We also have a council representative that sits on our board. So the idea is that we should be in constant dialogue with one another, hearing about what is happening on either side and saying, how can we continue to move forward together? That's what we would love to continue.
Okay, thanks.
All right, thank you. Councillor Savage.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you for your report, Julie. I have a few notes. I'm going to ask a question and then I'm going to make a couple of comments, but it was both impactful and it was greatly informative. I'll preface this by saying I have a great affection for, I'll still call it KDCL. I used to sit on the board and president and past president and was very involved. And so since probably, I'm looking at you, Gary, but we would be probably the two oldest ones that were on it for the longest serving. Yeah, that's right. So I do. I fully support KDCL, KBC, Downtown Kentville. I fully support all your efforts and thank you for the report. The section in your budget that talks about the business support, the facade and new business program, the 28.5. So you may or may not be aware, but we as a council have just approved, and correct me if I'm wrong, CAO, I think it's called the Community Invest Fund, and I believe that the amount for that was somewhere around 40,000.
Hasn't been decided yet. That's a budget decision, but there's some, that's a preliminary number, yes.
Preliminary number, okay. So if that fund was part of, call it KBC, is that something that you folks could, what's the word I'm looking for? Sort of do the intake piece, the evaluation piece, and it's really about, as opposed to the facade, it's more about making these businesses more accessible.
Yeah, absolutely. We have an entire subcommittee dedicated to the facade program, so we would have people to help with that. The one note that I would just make in addition to that is to also consider that new business piece. So new businesses under our description is anyone that's operating within the first 2 years of their business here. And we On the facade side, like on the facade business grant, it's a matching 50-50.
Okay.
But the new business stream offers up to $2,500 of unmatched funds,
Okay.
which typically goes towards signage. So it really helps new businesses get established in town. And this year, actually, more of that total number went to new businesses, 15,000 went to new businesses versus that 50-50 matching fund. So we would love consideration to be added to keep another portion of money for those new businesses. It shows them that Kentville is also, you know, backing them up, but it also
Right.
aids in making sure that they're able to get settled in and keeps the town looking cohesive all at the same time.
Okay, great, thank you. So just a couple of comments. I believe that KBC is creating a lifestyle.
You know
for our
what,
town.
Councillor Savage, we're not debating, we're just collecting information.
I'm actually just making a comment, which I normally would.
But we're
with
just asking them
regards
for
to a
information.
presentation.
We're not debating tonight as council.
So I can ask a question and normally.
No, you can
I would
ask
make
another
a-
question if you want to, but we're not debating the issue tonight.
I'm
we're
not
just
debating.
receiving
I'm making a
information.
comment on their presentation. So you would prefer me not to make a
Well,
comment?
if you,
on
we're
that?
not, because the rest of council's not going to debate the issue. It's not on the agenda tonight.
I'm
It's
not
just-
debating, but that's fine. I'll
If
cap
you have
it
a
off
question,
there.
though, feel free to
Yeah.
ask another question.
That's
I just
fine.
don't want it to turn
It was
into
a
a
great
debate.
report.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Councillor Maxwell?
Thank you for your report. I have a couple of questions.
Sure.
Can you, because these are questions, I've been on council for 9 years and I don't know the answers to these questions. So can you tell me what year Council of the Day decided that the C1 zone was the designated area to be the representative of, to be represented by KDCL? Can you tell
We
me
believe that was
what
from the
year that
beginning.
was? Because it sounds like it's our council and it's not, so, yeah.
Yep,
No,
fair.
it wasn't this council that
No.
made that designation.
No.
Back in 2013, when KDCL was reactivated, there were discussions with the town at that time about whether KDCL would be an economic business organization for all parts of the town or just the downtown. And we were told or suggested to at that time that we should deal with just the downtown and the rest of economic development would be the responsibility of town council. And even back in the original days of when KDCL was first formed back in the 1980s, most of the focus of KDCL was on the downtown. There was I know when Bill Denyer, who was the president of KDCL back in 2010, 2011, and they had a public meeting at King's Tech about what was needed to drive economic development in Kentville. His thought at that time was that KDCL should be an economic driver for the whole town. But in the final analysis, when it came down to funding and KDL's responsibility, the decision was made by the Council of the Day that our primary focus should be the downtown, with the idea that a downtown that is active and vibrant benefits development in the overall town. And we followed that process ever since. And every one of our strategic plans, going back as far as 2014, when we did our first one under the reactivated organization, point to that focus.
Okay, thank you. And my other, another question is that I'd like to know when the funding formula to put a levy on all businesses, including those outside the town, downtown area, as well as the business park, as well as all residents in the town of Kentville, because I didn't realize, I never read my tax bill, that I was paying a portion for this. And so I'm just wondering what year that was decided that all those businesses that aren't serviced, as well as the residents, when was that funding formula derived?
That was approved in 2013 for
Same
the
year.
2013-2014 year.
Yeah.
There were discussions with council at that time, and there's a report that was filed by the then CAO, Mark Phillips, suggesting that the business organization was valued to the whole community, and that report recommended a tax rate or a tax levy, not an area rate, a tax levy to all assessment sectors of the town. The largest rate was on commercial, but there was a smaller rate for residential and industrial. That rate, actually, the rates for both residential and industrial have gone down since that time. In 2013, the rate was 3/4 of 1 cent. In 2024-25, that rate on residential had dropped to 0.16 of 1 cent. But there's always been a recognition that, and there are studies that have been done all over North America, including Canada through the Canadian Urban Institute, that have demonstrated that there is value to a whole community in having a vibrant and active downtown, that it improves the economic viability of the town and the social fabric of the town. And there's many reports that point that out.
Okay, thank you. And one last question. Have you ever polled the businesses outside the C1 downtown zone to find out how they feel about paying a levy for a service they don't get?
We have not, but we also have not heard throughout all of the preparation of this report. We have been vocal about what's happening. We have not had a single complaint from an industrial park business. We have had one business outside of in Kentville, but outside of the downtown core express concern. One.
Again, if they don't read their tax bills, they probably don't know.
There's been a lot of noise about it recently, so.
Yeah, okay, so I just want to say thank you for coming in on this stormy night to do your presentation. It's very important to me that I get all my questions answered. And now that you have given this, then I look at my finance director and my CAO, because this is very much a budget issue. And I look to them and their presentation to make my decisions on. So I appreciate you coming in to answer those questions.
Thank you.
Okay, I don't see any other lights on. Thank you both very much.
Thank you.
We will now move on to recommendations. The first one is large-scale housing housekeeping amendments. The recommendation is that council give first reading to proposed amendments to the municipal planning strategy and land use bylaw related to the large-scale housing and community development framework as outlined in Appendix A of the staff report, and direct staff to schedule a public hearing. Deputy Mayor Cole and a seconder, Councillor Maxwell. Is there any discussion on this? It has been moved and seconded, so we will call the vote. Voting is now closed, and the motion is carried. Next item is 5B, rezone 160 Main Street, first reading. And the recommendation would read that council give first reading to the proposed map and text amendments to land use bylaw to permit a change of use within an existing building and to rezone 160 Main Street, PID 552-46573, from the 1 and 2 unit dwelling R2 zone to the medium density residential R3, and direct staff to schedule a public hearing. Councillor Andrew and seconder, Deputy Mayor. Any discussion on this? There being none, we will open the vote. Voting is now closed, and the motion is carried. Item 5C is the Mitchell Brook Culvert Replacement. Recommendation is that council approve the award of Mitchell Brook Culvert Replacement to Hughes Excavating Limited as per lowest bid and tender submission of $600,000, including contingency and non-recoverable HST. Councillor Maxwell and a seconder, Councillor Hamilton. Any discussion? There being none, we'll open the vote. Voting is now open. And voting is now closed, and the motion is carried. Thank you. Policy 110, that council adopt the targeted income tax exemption policy, Policy 110, as attached, effective for the 26-27 taxation year. Moved by Deputy Mayor Kroll and Councillor Andrew. Any discussion? No discussion, we'll open the vote. Voting is now closed, and the motion is carried. Recommended tax write-offs. The recommendation is the council approve the write-off of outstanding property taxes, including interest totaling $1,474.33 for assessment account numbers 107-38318 and 10992672 that were revested in Crown. Someone could move that. Deputy Mayor. Councillor Maxwell as a seconder. Any discussion? There being none, we will open the vote. Voting is now closed, and the motion is carried. Next item is 5F, Bylaw 204. The recommendation is the council give first reading to Bylaw 204, respecting partial tax exemptions. Moved by Deputy Mayor Kroll and a seconder, Councillor Andrew. Any discussion? Well, it has been moved and seconded, so we will open the vote. Voting is now open. Voting is now closed, and the motion is carried. We have a nominating committee report here, and the recommendation is that council approve the following appointments to committees and Water Commission effective February 23rd, 2026 to December 31st, 2027. Finance and Audit Committee, Cabrinja Adekari. Water Commission, Jamie Peerless. Planning Advisory Committee, Carol Goodwin. Someone could move that? Deputy Mayor as moved it, and Councillor Maxwell as a seconder. Any discussion on these? We'll open the vote then. Voting is now closed, and the motion is carried. We have a recommendation here regarding taxation in the business park. That council authorized the mayor to confirm with MLA John Lohr and the Nova Scotia Legislative Council Office that Town of Kentville is agreeable and supportive of the 1983 Act relating to taxation of industrial and commercial properties in the Annapolis Valley Regional Industrial Park, being Chapter 76 of the Acts of 1983, being amended by adding classified as industrial or manufacturing, including food storage, processing, and packaging businesses, immediately after Kentville, the second time it appears. Someone could move that? Deputy Mayor and a seconder, Councillor Andrew. Any discussion on this? Councillor Maxwell.
Thank you. I'm just wondering who else that leaves in the business park? Like how many other businesses then would be susceptible to a tax increase?
CAO.
We haven't done inventory, but I suspect it's the vast majority. There'd only be a few that would be manufacturing or processing.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Savage.
Thank you, Mayor. To you, the CAO. Do we know sort of the rationale as to why MLA Lohr did not want industrial manufacturing included?
I can't speak to that because I haven't talked to him personally.
So there was no indication given as to why?
The only thing he ever said to me was that he couldn't do that to the bigger, that was his response. I asked him that last fall, I guess, and that was the response I got, so.
Okay. Just one other question. So it looks like it would, based on the businesses there that are there now, and I know it's an estimate, that it would be about $300,000 in additional revenue. And that would be for the 27-28 or 26-27?
It would go into effect April 1st, 26.
2026, okay, thank you.
Any other question, any other comments or discussion? All right, we will call for the vote. Voting is now open. Voting is now closed. And the motion is carried. Thank you. Our council reports are all in the package. If there's any questions for any members of council, I would open the floor now if you have anything you'd like clarity on or questions to ask. Yes, Councillor Andrew.
Just want to say, good news, it had nothing to do with me, but to see the intermunicipal fire service agreement done. And so thank you to the CAO and Kings County CAO and our fire chief, who happens to be
Right here.
Yeah, so that was a relief for me as a past member of Joint Fire Service, and very happy to hear that. So thank you.
I echo that as well. All right, if there are no other questions for any members of council, I will adjourn this meeting at 5:55 p.m. Thank you very much.